what I did in this story is not awesome. And it is a little upsetting. So if you're somebody who's going to be upset by what is suggested in the title, then you shouldn't have clicked on it. That's on you. But I do regret it. Let me make that clear. It was not completely on purpose. I would say that it was about 40% an accident. I'm not saying that to excuse it, but I am saying that I have spent several years diligently in therapy trying to sort of unspool the 60% or so that was on purpose and figure out why it happened, why I did what I did, and how to prevent it from happening in the future. Let me also say, I don't hate dogs. I think a lot of people watch my videos and they get the impression that I have some sort of animosity towards dogs. Maybe I do a little bit, but I think that mostly it comes from two places. First, this story, because it was very traumatic. And also, I think realistically, I just don't really feel anything towards dogs. If you put me in a room with the cutest dog that has ever lived, I would say, okay. Now, the problem comes when if you put 5 other people in that room with me and that dog, they would all flip their shit. And they would go like, oh my gosh, a dog, oh! And they would expect me to have that same reaction. They would expect me to react like that. And if I didn't, they would think there was something wrong with me, and they would think that I was a freak. So I would pretend to have that reaction because I know by now in my life I have to, or else I'm going to be socially ostracized. And pretending to feel a way that you don't is hard. It's exhausting. So the animosity that I have towards dogs is because they remind me that they signal to me that I'm about to have to do the work of pretending that I'm normal, and I'm not. So they also remind me that I'm not normal. Now, I will say that I am very good at pretending. I'm probably a little bit too good at pretending because I think a big reason why this happened the way that it did was because for many years I was pretending and stuffing all of it down for a long time, and then it sort of exploded. So, before I moved to LA, a couple years before, I dated a girl, which may surprise some of you, but we lived together for about a year. And she had a dog named Booty, which, yep, you're absolutely right. That is a very stupid name. I agree. I didn't pick it, and I certainly didn't pick out the dog itself. I think that it was about, we both entered her life at the same time, me and the dog. I think it was our second or third date when we went to the dog place to buy the dog, or whatever it was. Well, we didn't. She went and I went with her. Because I was just doing and saying whatever I thought would get my dick sucked the fastest, honestly. But you know how it is when you're in a new relationship. You know, you sort of, that day, I think that if I had known that we were eventually going to live together and the dog that she was picking out would eventually be my dog, kind of my dog because I lived with them. I might have handled this a little differently. But what happened was she got the dog too late for me to be able to know if that would have been a deal breaker or not, but too early for me to have any opinion on it, if that makes sense. So I sort of got entrapped a little bit. But we went to the place, the shelter, and looked around at all the dogs. And the whole time I was like, yeah, okay, great, dog, whatever. And the shelter people said, we came to Booty, which was not her name yet. And the shelter people said, whatever you do, don't get that one. Because it's very badly behaved, it has a lot of problems, it's, blah, blah, blah. It's very high maintenance and difficult. And my ex looked right at that dog and said, I'll take that one, please. Like I said, I think I might have handled it differently if I had had the benefit of hindsight. And there's a lot of people who would basically she got the dog and I was there. We went to her apartment and she was trying to get it acclimated and I was helping and you know, because I was sort of in the fog of a new relationship and I was trying to, you know, I was trying to be a good boyfriend. That's all. I was trying to be a good boyfriend. And a lot of people think that I'm not. A lot of people are going to hear me talk about this and they're going to say, what a shitty boyfriend. Why the fuck would he think? Crap! I didn't want to say the F-bomb because I wanted to monetize this. Okay. Crap. What was I talking about? She brought home the dog and she was sort of getting it acclimated and doing all sorts of things. And I was helping. What I began to realize was that I was now third priority. Her, dog, me. Honestly, it was probably more like dog, her, me. In her priorities, I mean. And a lot of people are probably going to hear me say that and say, wow, he's such a shitty boyfriend. He expects to be, you know, it's not enough attention for him. He wants to also, he doesn't like his girlfriend's dog and he expects his girlfriend to like him more than her dog. And yes, that's exactly what I expect because it's a dog. I am a person. I am a person with complex feelings. I'm sorry, I didn't want to get this upset. I'm a person and I have complex feelings. My problem with pet owners, across the board, not just dogs and cats and whatever iguanas, whatever, birds, whatever, is that pet owners project their own thoughts and feelings onto their pet and it becomes an extension of them. But they think that the pet is just having their thoughts and emotions. And they expect everybody else to like their pet as much as they do. Because why wouldn't they like it? It's them. It's not enough. The attention that they can get as just themselves in their own body isn't enough for them. They need to now add another thing on top of that and farm more and more attention from people through that thing. You can say whatever you want, but that's why people get pets. And that's why people love their pets, even though they don't. Pets don't love them. The pets are not capable of love. The pets aren't capable of any emotion past, I'm hungry and I need the shit. I'm sorry, I did not want to get this upset. There were so many times when we lived together, I would literally be in the middle of crying. I would be in the middle of telling a story about my life. That was anything. It didn't even matter what it was. Anything. And I would look over at her and she would not even be looking at me. She would be looking past me at the dog and she would say, hold on one second. The dog is sitting funny. And she would take a video. There were so many times when I would be standing in the kitchen and I would hear her walk into the house and I would hear her say, hello. And I would hear unconditional love in her voice, in her tone of voice. And for a moment, I would think, finally, I earned it. Finally, I got the love from her that I was craving. Then I would realize, no, she was talking to the dog. She wasn't talking to me. And she would see that I was there and she'd say, oh, hi, you're here. That's the hello I would get. Hello. And I would wonder, what do I have to do to get that hello? Because the dog and I were in your life for the same amount of time. We both love you unconditionally, and we are trying to do every single thing that we can to get you to love us back. The difference is the dog only loves you because you feed it. I see all of you. I see the complex person that you are, and I see your flaws and all of that, and still I try to do everything I can to get you to love me. The dog and I make the same mistakes. We both make mistakes. The difference is I am held accountable for my mistakes. The dog doesn't know any better. So the dog can't be held responsible and it can't correct its behavior. But I can. So why am I punished for that? Why am I punished for having complex emotions and responsibility? Why then do all of the dog's mistakes completely evaporate the second after they happen? And every mistake that I make gets added on to that hello until gradually it gets less and less enthusiastic. And for a long time, I didn't know the answer. But then I finally figured out what it was. And I wish I had known back then, because I could have saved myself a lot of grief and a lot of heartache. It's because loving the dog is easy. The dog doesn't expect anything from you. The dog doesn't care that you have flaws. You don't have to become a better person to love the dog. But with me, with another human being, you do. Loving another human being means accepting your own flaws. And she couldn't handle that. Now, I'm coming off very, very strong. I acknowledge that. Because I'm just trying to illustrate the scenario that precipitated the next thing that happens. Like I said, I was in a very, very bad place. I was drinking, I was doing a lot of drugs, and I was sort of not, I felt like I was not fulfilling my potential as a person in my life, and I hated my life, and I hated my job, but I didn't want to accept that. And so it reached a boiling point one day, and I came into work. My job was awful. My boss was awful. It was terrible. So I came into work one day, flying off some concoction of pills. I don't even remember. And I got fired. I wish I could tell you that story, but I don't remember what happened. Point is, I got fired, and I was driving home back to our house where we lived. And I was in a situation where I was realizing my entire life is completely crumbling and falling on top of me. And when you're in that situation, and you're also in a relationship, and there's someone who's supposed to be the other half of you and your life, there are two options. Either they're part of the problem, or they're part of the solution. And she was part of the problem, I now know in retrospect. But I thought that she could be part of the solution if I just worked hard enough to earn it. Another thing that I've tried to figure out in therapy is why I am so hell-bent on trying to get love from people who will never give it to me, because they're not emotionally available enough. And I don't want to make this a therapy session, blah, blah, Freud and what I didn't get as a child, I'm trying to get now and correct through my adult relationships. Point is, this was a pattern. I was trying to get something that was not there. So I got home. I opened the door, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to explain what happened. I walk in and I see that she is on the floor next to Booty, and she looks very concerned. And I say, "What's going on?" And she says, "Booty fell at the park. There's something happened. And I thought that she was okay, but she's been acting very strange, and I'm worried that something's wrong. She's not being normal." I wasn't being normal either, by the way. But she didn't care about that. And I said, if she asks me how my day was, I will tell her what happened. If she says, "How are you? What's going on?" I'll say it. But she didn't. Which is fine, because I was used to it at that point. So I said, "Well, okay, I'll take off of work tomorrow and we can go to the vet." Which was a lie, obviously. And Honestly, I think that she was a little disappointed when I said that. But what's she gonna say? No, going to work, don't be there for me? There are so many times in this relationship when we had an opportunity to say what we were thinking, but if we had done that, the entire relationship would have crumbled. So there were a lot of times when we did not say the logical next thing because we wanted to avoid that. So we go to the vet the next day, and it all happened very fast. Basically, the vet said there was some sort of spinal injury, and Booty, the best course of action would be to put Booty to sleep because it's a very severe injury. And it was sort of like in a movie when everything sort of the sound cuts out and everything goes like, and I didn't even see it. I felt her fall to the ground and literally on her knees start crying. And I was holding her. My first thought, I remember, was a normal thought. I was like, oh crap. But my second thought, deep down in there, was, yes. I'm not saying that was good. Like I said, I've spent a lot of time in therapy trying to figure out why that was my second thought. But I heard a little voice in there say, I win. I didn't do anything I wasn't even there for the accident. I'm reminding you, because I think some people might misinterpret that. I am not perfect, okay? Nobody is perfect, right? So I'm only saying that I even thought that. A lot of people probably think things that are as bad as me, and they just don't say it. The reason why everybody thinks that I'm a crazy person is because I say it. I'm actually honest, because I want to see if anybody can relate to me. But apparently I'm just hitting my head against the wall, because that'll never happen. So, it had already been pretty dark, but the next few days were very, very, very dark. Literally and figuratively, because it was raining the entire weekend. Non-stop downpour. And I hate the rain. So that was just add another thing onto the list. So, Booty had to be put to sleep. And my ex's parents lived, or near there. So she went to stay with her parents for a weekend because she didn't want to be in the house, while immediately dealing with that grief, which made sense. And I made up, I have to go to work. I can't get out of work, so I can't, which was another lie. And where we lived was a very small town. So I knew somebody who worked at the vet place. And I reached out to them. And I said, I know that we said that we wanted the dog to be cremated, but we have changed our minds, which was not true. My girlfriend does not want to see the body, but she wants it to be buried in our backyard. So I can come pick it up myself. And if you want, maybe we can also grab a cup of coffee, because this was a friend who we sort of had it was not probably what you're thinking, but we did have a little bit of a history. And I'm glad that I did that, because that was the first time, that coffee was the first time that I literally felt like I had come above the surface of the water and I was gasping for air for the first time in a very, very long time. So I picked up Booty's body in a garbage bag. And I was holding her, and it was very strange because I went to go in my car and I thought about all the times that Booty had that I had tried to pull her in the car and that she had been trying to jump out the window and chase a squirrel or do something. And I'd be like, ah. And now, nothing. It is completely silent. And I just sat her in the trunk and shut the trunk. I think that really, my therapist has told me that a lot of this was because I was grieving in my own way. And also I was trying to get control back because I had for so long felt like I was being controlled by these two other people. And so I was trying to seize back control. So before I went home, I stopped at the park. And again, I really don't know why I did this. I guess I was feeling freaky. I don't know. Took Booty out of the trunk, and I went to the spot where we always used to go, the three of us. And I just sat Booty in the garbage bag on the grass, and I sat next to her. And I just tried to enjoy the stillness. I tried to enjoy the fact that I was in control. And I had always sort of been curious what dogs tasted like. I remember once me and my ex had a conversation where the conversation started by me asking, would you ever eat a human being? And she said, yeah, that would be interesting. I'm interested to see what it would taste like. And I said, yeah, me too. And so we said, well, if one of us dies, then I give you permission to eat the other one, just being silly. And then I said, as sort of a hypothetical, would you eat Booty? And she looked at me like I had just told her that I killed somebody. And she got very, very upset. And she said, absolutely not, no. And I said, well, I would. And this started a very big argument because I said, so you would eat a person and you're fine with eating a cow and you're fine with eating a pig and you're fine with eating a whatever, but a dog is off limits. Why? And, she was like, well, because it's my dog, and I get it. But I was curious. And I thought, let me also say that I was not sober yet. So there was some other things going on in here beyond just my raw meanness. I figured I had the house to myself for a couple of days, and it would be I grew up Catholic, and a big thing in the Catholic religion is communion, which is when you eat the body of Christ and the blood of Christ, and that means he becomes a part of you, and blah, blah, blah. So it's a very symbolic and special thing. So to me, eating somebody, I've never eaten all right. That to me is not bad. I mean, basically it's I thought that eating Booty, the dog, I thought that eating Booty, and now I can't say that. I thought that eating this dog would sort of be my closure. It would help me complete the grief process. And it would also just help me sort of in retrospect, deal with things that had happened in the past. Obviously, I knew better than to even ask. My ex would not have been okay with, I think, knowing that I had even gone behind her back and gotten the body of the dog and brought it to the park would be enough to she would not have taken kindly to that. So I knew better than to even ask. But like I said, I had a couple nights to myself, and I had another friend who was a line cook. And I asked her if she wanted to come over and help me with something. This was, because I don't know how to clean or prepare an animal. I don't know, it has skin and hair, so I don't know what I'm doing. I barely even know how to make a chicken breast. So I asked her if she could come over and help me with something, and this particular friend was someone who I also sort of had a history with, and who I really trusted, because, I always say there's some people who, everybody's got one or two people in their life who they feel that they could come to and say, I need you to help me hide a body or something, and those people would do it for you, no questions asked. This was that person for me. So she came over, and she thought it was kind of interesting, because she was sort of a chef, so that was sort of in her. I don't know. I think I really appreciated her in a new light after that, because I think a lot of people would have walked in that door and seen a dog lying on my kitchen counter on a cutting board, and they would have ran out screaming and called the police. And I will admit it was even me. I think when I think back, I don't want to get into the details of this part specifically, because that's sort of needless. I think you can imagine it. But basically, we sort of, by the time we were done, it looked like any old beef. And we happened to be out of Ziploc bags. And my ex used to get these weekly deliveries of groceries. It's like the produce and the meat that it doesn't sell well. They give it to you in a box, This is not an ad for them. If they want me to say the name, they're welcome to give me $5,000, $10,000. But basically, it comes in these pre-portioned bags that are really nice, and so there was one that was like beef or something, and it was already almost out, so I put the dog into that package, because we didn't have any other. I didn't know where else to put it, and I kind of forgot about it, because I didn't want to eat it that night, because it was too close to when I was sort of feeling sick, honestly, from butchering it. So we said, I let my friend take some home, because she wanted to eat it and, try it. She was also curious. And then I put the rest of it in the freezer in that pre-portioned bag. And then like I said, I forgot. A couple days later, my girlfriend came back, and we sort of had a long talk. I told her that I got fired. I told her everything. And she said, I'm thinking about moving. I'm thinking about moving away from here and moving, I don't want to say too many details, because I don't want you to, I want to respect the boundaries of this person. But basically, I think that we both sort of knew that well, I'm giving myself a little too much credit. I don't think that I was ready to accept that this was probably the end of the relationship, or that was even on the horizon at all. Maybe deep down I knew that, but most of me was still trying to make it work, still trying. And so I said, you know what? I understand that I'm going to be here for you, whatever you need. We're going to be okay. That's what I said. And so she said, okay, I'm going to make some tacos. And she went in the kitchen and cooked. And I do the dishes afterwards. She's kind of the chef in the house. I sort of just do the dishes, and that's my contribution. So I found that if I try to get in there and help, I'm just in the way. So I just sort of was like, okay, and I watched TV. She brings out they're pretty good tacos. I get halfway through one of them, and I ask her, what is this? The meat. And she says, oh, I guess it was some weird beef that they gave me in the produce box. And I said, crap. A lot of things went through my head as far as what to do immediately next. And ultimately, the least bad thing was just to act like nothing had happened at all, and zip my lips and never speak of this again. So that's what I did. And I hope she doesn't find this video, because then we're gonna have a problem. But, and now, as far as the taste, it was pretty good. I mean, it was not, I would say my official meat ranking of all the meats I've ever had, duck is number 1. I like steak, number 2. 3, chicken. 4, dog. 5, pork. Dog was like a slightly better pork. And we broke up a couple months later for unrelated reasons. So, yeah.